Hello? Oh, yes. Frank Morgan, just a minute. Say, Meredith, find Frank, will you?
Sure will, Bob.
Ralph, you all set?
Well, I found what I think is a fairly good disguise, Bob, as nearly as I can judge.
Yeah,
But after all, what I want to...
Frank, Go get it. Go get it. Go on. Hurry up. Hurry up. Oh, Frank.
Hello, Todd. Bob. Well.
Telephone, Senator.
Oh, thank you. Hello? Yes, sir. Attorneys. Yes. Well, you can't sue me for that. You haven't any grounds. And if you had, I'd beat you with a habeas corpus, nolli prosse, and nox vomica. Good day.
Why, are you getting sued, Senator?
Yes, certainly not. I was just following the universal political custom of kissing a few babies before election. I kissed one baby in Ventura, and look at the fuss.
Was that the baby's father?
No, it was her fiancé. This baby's 23.
Well, that's fine. Frank, I want you to meet a very distinguished guest we have with us this evening.
Oh, yes. Well, who is it?
Well, I'm not exactly, Would you mind coming out here, please? Oh.
Well, for heaven...
You'll be very much impressed with this gentleman.
Well...
Come right this way, please.
What's that?
Frank, I have the honor to present the Office of Sulphur. This is Frank Morgan.
The Office of Sulphur. Well, how do you do, sir?
Ig poo. Ig poo?
Yes, sir. Don't betray your ignorance, Bob. The man was just speaking Hindustani.
That's right, Mr. Morgan. I said good evening.
Well, of course I understood you. Are you staying here long, Hafiz?
Well...
No, Frank. The Hafiz is just passing through Los Angeles. He's on a concert tour. He plays the fiddle.
Oh, he does? Why, Hafiz, what a pleasure. It isn't often I meet a fellow violinist. Oh, how I love to relive my days as soloist with the Vienna Symphony.
Oh, now,
Frank.
What? Are you trying to tell me, and the Hafiz here,
yes,
that you were a professional violinist, Mr. Morgan?
Sasha Morghini, Bob. Concertmeister under Schubert, Kapellmeister under Brahms, Mickey Meister under Disney.
Did you hear that, Hafiz?
Hafiz here, plenty.
All right. Listen, Sasha. So you were a concert violinist. Could you give me some idea what period of your career this was?
The period.
Was it around 1923, 25, 27?
Yes. Yes, it covered all those years.
I see.
Yes.
Hafiz, Mr. Morgan here says he was a concert soloist between the years of 1923 and 1927.
Igpoo? Igpoo?
Where was your brother Ralph at that time, Frank?
Ralph. Oh, yes. Well, it's very unfortunate. Now, just keep this to yourself, Bob, and you too, Hafiz. But Ralph had got into a rather nasty scrape at the time. We had to send him away on a trip. Oh, it was a ghastly affair. Ghastly.
What happened to your brother Ralph?
Well, yes, poor Ralph was always the black sheep of the family. A congenital liar. Light-fingered, too.
What? I mean, you don't say.
Oh, yes, Hafiz. If you ever had such a brother, you'd know how I feel.
I've got one.
Oh, Igpoo.
Igpoo.
Oh, your brother Ralph was a pickpocket, huh, Frank?
Yes, for 17 years, poor Ralph led a life of shame.
Then he reformed?
No, he got over being ashamed. I'd really appreciate it, gentlemen, if you'd never mention this to me again. Incidentally, it'd be a good thing if you didn't mention it to Ralph. Well, by the way, Hafiz, what kind of a violin do you play?
He plays a very high-class instrument, Frank. Brand new, very good looking. I saw it.
Uh-huh. When do you start your tour, Hafiz?
He starts in London the 23rd of November.
Young, I advise you to let this distinguished gentleman speak for himself.
It's his English, you half-wit.
Well, yours is nothing, too. I mean, you can't. And besides, if the fellow said nothing but Igpoo all evening, he'd be more entertaining than you.
Well, thank you, Frank.
Yes.
The Hafiz is very intelligent, and I know he'd like to hear about your musical career.
Oh, yes. Well, gentlemen, my career was probably the most brilliant of any virtuoso of our time. I played concerts in every civilized city of the globe.
Yeah.
I was idolized in London, lionized in Leipzig, and paralyzed in Paris. No, I've got to start looking at these things before I go on. I can't.
Keep fiddling, Nero.
Women wept as my strings sang in Copenhagen, Brussels, Vienna. But of all the appreciative audiences I ever played to, the one that gave me the greatest thrill was an audience at the Schauspiel in Hamburg.
What's that?
I said I'll take Hamburg.
Make mine cheese on rye.
Just coffee, please.
Cream and sugar?
Black.
Coming up. It was in Hamburg that I played my last concert. And, gentlemen, it made musical history because I was to present for the first time a Beethoven manuscript which I had discovered in my travels, a new violin concerto.
Was it good, Frank?
Oh, it was all right after I'd touched it up a little. I wrote a new andante, changed the counterpoint in the scherzo, and put a little zing into the finish. It's since become famous under the title A Tisket, a Tasket.
Oh, yes. Beethoven's Tisket, Opus 32, sure.
Well, at any rate, as soon as the concert was scheduled, I plunged at once into rehearsals with the greatest symphony orchestra in Europe and slaved night and day for 2 weeks to get the work in shape.
You must have been pretty tired.
So am I.
Well, have a seat, Iggy.
Thank you.
Not at all. As a matter of fact, I was exhausted, Bob, and I went to my hotel room to get a little sleep. I'd barely been in bed for a half hour when destiny caught up with me.
The house detective.
Yes. No. The hotel was on fire. I quickly grabbed my precious violin and dashed from the inferno in my pajamas. I reached the theater and found the concert was already in progress. Only then did I realize that the only orchestration of this Beethoven concerto lay in ashes in room 512 of the Hamburg Commercial House.
What a spot. Pajamas and no music. Did you call the concert off?
Not Sasha Morghini. I borrowed a tailcoat, strode out on the stage in my pajama pants, and was instantly greeted with an ovation. As I plunged into my solo, the entire symphony orchestra, without a single note of music, performed a miracle. They accompanied me flawlessly.
Incredible.
Oh, yes. Within 3 minutes, every soul in the audience had forgotten my absurd costume in sheer delight at the magic music that was pouring from my bow. Then suddenly, as I was beginning the finale, it happened.
What?
A string broke, and instantly the house was in an uproar.
Why? Which string was it?
The string on my pajamas. Trying to struggle through the closing measures in this awkward situation, naturally, I fell down on my cadenza. I could never live that down, so I gave it up.
Frank, that's all the absolute truth, is it?
Every word.
All right, Frank. Shake hands with your brother, Ralph. Take off the spinach, Ralph.
Hello, Frank.
Well, Ralph, I'm delighted to see you.
I can imagine, but we'll let that go. Ralph, I'd just like to know if there was any truth whatsoever in this story Frank just told.
Well...
Now, do me a favor and be brief, will you, Ralph?
I'll be brief, Bob. The whole story is true.
What? True? Ralph, how can you possibly say that?
Well, Bob, I ought to know. Who do you think led that orchestra? Come on, Frank, let's get some...
Well, good old Ralph.
Bob, I've just received a poem from Bob Loving, a reporter on the Bristol, Virginia Herald Courier.
Well, why don't you read it, Ted?
Okay, Bob, here goes. You may speak of blooming flowers, of inspiration rare. You may tell of words and powers to drive away all care. But a thought that most appeals to me, a sweet exotic dream, is a cup of Maxwell House coffee with a little bit of cream.
Why, that's almost perfect.
Almost? Why...
Well, the only thing he didn't include is our Maxwell House moment of relaxation and Meredith's music. Now, folks, it's time for that pleasant custom of ours, so won't you join us in the steaming cup of Maxwell House?
We now pause briefly for station identification.
KFI, Los Angeles.